Chapter 2306. Yuan Tianjie nodded and said, "The war must be delayed as much as possible. The more people die, the better. If we keep fighting like these few days, I believe that in another 10 days, my injuries will be almost completely healed. That damned book fanatic. He actually caused my spiritual and soul power to suffer such heavy injuries." Yi Luoyu said calmly, "I will order Yu Kai to continue to send troops to fight and create a large number of casualties on both sides." Not only were generals like Yu Kai and Mu Kanglan unable to understand what was going on, but even the soldiers who had just joined the army were also unable to understand what was going on. In any case, every day after that, hundreds of thousands of troops would be fighting in pairs. Yu Kai only sent troops from one direction to fight every day, and the tens of millions of troops in the other directions were all biding their time. Anyone who acted rashly would be killed without mercy. This made his own troops grumble to the heavens. They couldn't understand at all. If they attacked together, no matter how stubborn the other side was, they would all be dealt with within a few days. But using this kind of fighting method was simply adding fuel to the fire. "Yu Kai, you can't be a spy from Mu Kanglan's side, right?" But on the other side, Mu Kanglan and Xie Danqiong were also depressed. In order to prepare for this big battle, the surrounding ground was filled with countless vicious traps. Even the heart of each tree was hollowed out and filled with explosives and poisonous smoke. All the ambushes were arranged perfectly and flawlessly. But all the ambushes were still built on one foundation. When the enemy attacked from all directions at the same time, they would be launched at the same time. Only in this way could they inflict heavy damage to the enemy on a large scale. But fighting like this now, those ambushes were completely useless, because at most, they would only be able to detonate the ambushes on one side. The other sides would be completely wasted. Not to mention the minimal effect, they would also expose their final trump card. How could they be worthy of the huge manpower and resources they had invested in so many days? Besides, there was a huge disparity in the actual strength of the two armies. If those ambushes were useless, how could their side continue fighting? They were completely not the enemy's match. But now, the enemy was calmly attacking like a master, neither fast nor slow. It was like boiling a frog in warm water. What exactly is Yuan Tianjie planning? Mu Kanglan frowned and paced back and forth in the commander's tent. It's not a large-scale attack. Nor did they send out experts to attack. Every day, they use ordinary troops to attack our elites. It's simply sending them to their deaths. Could it be that they want to borrow my hand to destroy Mo Yuntian's military power? But that shouldn't be the case. As long as he was still the Celestial Emperor, all of this power belonged to him. How could he sacrifice all of this power? But if that wasn't the case, then why? I don't get it. Even though Mu Kanglan had followed Yuan Tianming for 1,000,000 years, he was still completely confused. Xie Danqiong sat quietly at the head of the table. He didn't say a word. He looked like a stone statue. In his heart, he was thinking about the strange battle situation over the past few days. He faintly had a guess. However, there were too many things happening at the moment. He could not figure out what exactly had gone wrong. Reporting. Yu Lai has sent people to attack again. Mu Kanglan let out a long sigh and said, "Let General Luo lead the troops to meet the enemy. General who has fought for an entire day today, and the soldiers are already very tired. Withdraw and rest well." The messenger received the order and left. Not long after, the sound of fighting could be heard from outside. The sound shook the surroundings and lingered on. Mu Kanglan's face was even more worried. He sighed and said, "This battle is really terrible. No matter who wins or loses in the end, the ones who die are actually my Mo Yuntian's great men. But now, we have no choice but to fight. What's happening in front of us is really regrettable." A general beside him also nodded repeatedly. If the souls of the heroes who died in the battle on the other side know that they died for the sake of the heavenly demon, even if their souls return to the spring, it would be difficult for them to feel at ease. "What did you say?" Xie Danqiong, who was thinking, suddenly stood up. He looked at General Ma, who had just spoken. His expression was somewhat frightening. General Ma was shocked by Xie Danqiong's sudden reaction. I didn't say anything, hero soul. Spirit. Spring. Xiedan Qiong only felt a flash of inspiration in his mind. He instantly remembered the scene of the fierce battle with the heavenly demon on the Chongtian continent. He couldn't help but pat his forehead and said, I see. The truth is actually so simple. I actually only thought of it now. Chief, have you thought of something? Mu Kanglan's eyes were dignified. The reason why Yuan Tianjie didn't attack and only used a small-scale battle, I think I already know. Xiedan Qiong said slowly. Oh, then what's the reason? Is there a hidden conspiracy? There is indeed a hidden conspiracy, but it has nothing to do with the battle. In the rebellion of the Seven Kings, although Yuan Tianjie killed the Seven Kings, he inevitably suffered heavy injuries. Xiedan Qiong said slowly, I heard that if the heavenly demon's divine soul is damaged, he can use a large number of human souls as a sacrifice to absorb soul energy to heal his own injuries. Now, it must be because Yuan Tianjie's own soul is damaged and can't recover in a short time, so he used this method of using human souls to heal himself. If it really was a large-scale battle, although more people would die, Yuan Tianjie may not be able to absorb a large amount of soul energy. He can only watch as a large amount of soul energy is lost. Now it's only a small-scale battle, and the location is relatively close. Yuan Tianjie can eat to his heart's content and use the soul energy of the dead to heal his injuries, Xiedan Qiong sighed. I should have thought of it. Yuan Tianjie used such a strange battle strategy to absorb soul energy to heal his injuries. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. They were furious again. Is this true? Mu Kanglan was furious. It's absolutely true. Xiedan Qiong nodded heavily. I dare to guarantee that this is absolutely true. It's not a lie. Damn Yuan Tianjie. Damn heavenly demon. Mu Kanglan stood up and pointed to the sky, cursing loudly. Everyone was cursing non-stop. So, the final result of this battle will only benefit that demon Yuan Tianjie. If Yuan Tianjie asks Yuqi to come and challenge us again, do we still have to fight? A general was worried and angry. But if we don't fight, are we going to wait for death? Mu Kanglan was distressed. I really didn't expect Yuqi to be such a bastard. He's usually a flatterer and has a low moral standing. But at such a critical moment, he's actually willing to help the heavenly demon and send his comrades to the battlefield to their deaths to become soul energy to nourish the heavenly demon. He's really worse than a dog or a pig. He's really crazy. Although they were cursing, they were helpless in the face of this thorny problem. Sometimes, after knowing the truth, facing the truth was even more difficult and helpless than when they didn't know the truth. If we fight, the death toll will definitely continue to increase, and there will be more soul energy for Yuan Tianjie to absorb and recover from his injuries. But if we don't fight, we can't just wait to be captured. With the current camp, if the enemy forces charge, the so-called fortifications will just be a joke. They won't be able to withstand a single blow. Mu Kanglan slammed his fist on the table. How can such a thing happen? How can there be such an evil race in the world? We can't advance or retreat like this. Are they trying to suffocate us to death? It's a pity that my brother isn't here. Xiedan Qiong sighed softly and said, My brother is most proficient in formations. He can summon the power of heaven and earth with the help of formations. If he's here, he only needs to set up a wind-guiding formation and attract a gale to completely blow away the newly formed soul energy. Yuan Tianjie won't have anywhere to absorb it. Wind. Mu Kanglan's eyes lit up as he looked up. Can we use the power of an expert to artificially create a gale? Will this be effective? Mu Kanglan asked. This might work, but I'm afraid that the enemy will also send experts of the same level to interfere. The results will be minimal. Xiedan Qiong frowned. But right now, we don't have a better idea. We can only use this method to deal with the current situation. I'll arrange it. No matter what, we can't just watch the heavenly demon wreak havoc and devour the souls of the heroes, Mu Kanglan said in a low voice. The battle on the second day went on as usual. However, there were a few more ambushes in the sky. A few saints under Mu Kanglan's command stood high up in the sky. When the battle started, they seemed to have gone crazy. Each of them swung the branches of a large tree to create an artificial gust of wind. The sound was terrifying and deafening. It blew sand and stones into the air and made people lose their balance. Could it be that these people are so bored that they have nothing better to do? Have they become stupid? Yu walked out of the tent and looked up. He was puzzled. Waving a tree to create a gale. Can it kill people? What a joke. The people around him laughed. Commander, it seems like Mukang Land's side is about to collapse. They actually did something so bizarre. They really don't know what they're talking about. Ha ha ha. Yu Kai also laughed heartily. Just as he was laughing, the Prime Minister's gloomy voice suddenly sounded by his ear. Immediately send people to chase those crazy fellows up there away, the sooner the better. Immediately. Yu was stunned. What was going on? What kind of explanation was this? Could it be that when the other party was crazy, they had to follow suit? This. Waving a tree was just whipping the air, but it was really crazy. What are you waiting for? The Prime Minister's tone was extremely strict. Yu shuddered. He did not dare to delay and immediately ordered, quickly send a few experts to chase those fellows in the sky away. The generals who were laughing suddenly froze. What? They want us to go crazy too? There's something going on today. A book friend from Tsangzhou brought his father to Jinan to see a doctor. They encountered some difficulties and contacted me. I'll go to Jinan Provincial Hospital. I'll make up for it tomorrow. Chapter 2307. What? You want us to go and have a stroke too? Didn't you just say that those people were idiots? Now you actually changed your mind and want us to go and be idiots too. And you changed it without batting an eyelid. First, you scolded them for being idiots, and then you told your subordinates to go and have a stroke too, just this level. Compared to Commander Mu in the past, the difference was not just a little bit. The difference was like heaven and earth. The difference was like heaven and earth. Fuck, are you lie, playing with us? Why aren't you all going? Don't make any mistakes. Yu Lai also knew that the difference in his performance before and after was too great. He was feeling a little embarrassed. Seeing that the generals were stunned, he couldn't help but roar in anger. Yes. Although the generals were cursing in their hearts, they had no choice but to obey. He was the commander now. If they didn't obey, it would be disobeying a military order. That was a crime punishable by death. No matter how afraid they were, they still jumped up. Hey, what the hell is going on over there? Hurry up and scram, save us the trouble. Those people naturally knew what they were doing. It was of great significance. How could they be willing to leave? After a few words, the two sides really got into a fight. In an instant, the two sides of the battlefield were ignited at the same time. The people on Mukang Land's side knew what they were doing and naturally did their best to stop the Sky Demon's scheme. But the people on Yu Lai's side didn't know what was going on. The purpose of the battle was especially unclear. This was undoubtedly a huge difference. Therefore, the consequences quickly appeared. Often, after the strong winds from both sides were released, they were cleverly guided to the sky above the battlefield. Huff, huff, huff. The effect was quite good. It seemed to be even better than simply using a tree to create a whirlwind. Yuan Tianjie was so angry that his belly almost exploded. After this day, the harvest was close to zero. Moreover, he had used up a lot of his own strength. Absorbing the elemental spirits of the dead on a large scale also consumed his vitality. Moreover, it was such a large area. How could the amount of vitality used be small? Not only did he not recover, but he also used up a lot of his vitality. The losses outweighed the gains. In the commander's tent, Mukang Lan was on full alert in case something unexpected happened. He knew that since he had made a targeted response, the other side would definitely make a move as well. Perhaps something unexpected would happen in the next moment. Therefore, he and a few other experts with high enough cultivation had long been fully prepared, ready to attack at any time. Suddenly, Mukang Lan's eyes flashed and he shot into the sky without any warning. High in the sky. A streak of black light was approaching at an astonishing speed. Mu Kanglan's rainbow was also approaching the battlefield in the sky at almost the same time. Amidst the howling winds, he fearlessly charged towards the streak of black light. Yiluoyu, you finally couldn't resist coming out? Heavenly demon Evildor, die! Mu Kanglan roared and attacked. He didn't even give the other party a chance to reply. And his first move was a killing move. Clearly, he was full of killing intent. The streak of black light coming from the opposite side was Yiluoyu. His goal was very simple and pure, which was to disrupt the battle. He didn't expect to encounter Mu Kanglan's powerful attack so quickly. Mu Kanglan laughed strangely and met the attack head-on without showing any signs of weakness. The two of them rolled and rolled in the air, their astonishing attacks colliding with each other. The power of their attacks intimidated everyone present. This was already a clash between the top super experts. The impact was naturally different from the others. However, in such an intense battle, 7 or 8 people from Yiluoyu's side rushed out at high speed. On Mu Kanglan's side, except for Xiedanqiong, the other experts rushed forward like crazy. The battle below was fierce, and so was the battle in the sky. And in the so-called high in the sky, there was a group of super experts at the peak level fighting in an even more explosive manner. This battle was truly so intense that the sky changed color and the sun and moon dimmed. Everyone was a top expert and rarely got injured. However, in this battle, there would be at least one person falling from the sky like a dumpling every once in a while. The more powerful the expert, the more they could balance themselves. Naturally, it was less easy for them to fall. This was almost an instinctive defense mechanism of a top expert. However, once they fell from the sky like a meteor without any room to struggle, it proved that this person had suffered a fatal injury, and falling like this was tantamount to certain death. There was no room for luck. But no matter what, Yuan Tianjie's plan to absorb the power of the soul to heal his injuries like before had completely become empty talk. The experts from both sides continued to fight with their lives on the line. At the beginning, everyone was still paying attention to stopping the wind or controlling its flow. Later on, when they were fighting excitedly, they no longer cared about these things. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew from left to right, followed by a tornado from top to bottom, then from north to south, from south to east, from east to west. The entire sky above the battlefield was filled with the howling of the hurricane. The sole power of the people who died below was almost instantly blown away without a trace, completely dissipating into thin air. Suddenly, Mu Kanglan let out a loud roar. He raised his head to the sky and howled. His body rose into the air and his 2 hands suddenly danced at a crazy speed, transforming into a tornado that stabbed into the ground. The point of impact was a large mountain to the left behind. Mu Kanglan rushed down like a bolt of lightning and grabbed the mountain with one hand. The entire mountain began to tremble without any warning. Then, with a loud boom, the mountain range that stretched for 150 kilometers collapsed. Mu Kanglan roared as he soared into the sky. In his hand was a large sword that was about 100 zhong long and several tens of zhong wide. Or, it should be said that it was a large iron rod. With a single grab, he was able to extract all the metallic substances contained within the entire mountain and fuse them into a ball. With one grab, all the metal automatically gathered to form a large sword. The power of this large sword was unknown for the time being, but this large sword was at least hundreds of thousands of kilograms. This large sword that weighed hundreds of thousands of kilograms flashed with a dazzling light. Mu Kanglan grabbed the large sword hilt with both hands and charged into the sky like a meteor, smashing it down towards Yi Luoyu's head. Yes, smashing down with the rod. Yi Luoyu let out a strange cry and retreated in a flash. Mu Kanglan, you are also a famous person. How the fuck do you fight like this? When experts exchanged blows, they had their own rules. When one's strength reached their level, they would mostly use their own special martial skills and techniques to create an opportunity for victory. But to fight like Mu Kanglan, who relied purely on his own brute strength to activate a giant weapon, was not something a martial artist could do. Of course, Fighting in this way was unparalleled and could give one an absolute advantage in a short period of time. But there was a limit to one's strength. No matter how strong an expert was, they could not wield such a large weapon for long unless they could quickly defeat their opponent. But at the level of Mu Kanglan and Yi Luoyu, if one side deliberately dodged while the other wielded such a large weapon, it was impossible to survive. Unparalleled power also meant that it was large and unstoppable. In a battle between super experts, one of the most important factors was endurance. If you were to wield such a heavy weapon, you would definitely not be able to sustain it for long. As long as the battle dragged on, your yuan qi would inevitably be greatly exhausted. In such an atmosphere of a battle between experts, every bit of yuan qi was precious. Recklessly exhausting one's yuan qi would not yield any results. It was truly an act of seeking death. But at this moment, such an inappropriate attack might not be ineffective. Mu Kanglan slammed his staff down again and said angrily, "I'll smash you to death, you demon." Yi Luoyu did not dare to take it head-on. Using her movement technique, she leaped into the air again and safely dodged. If Mu Kanglan still persisted in pursuing Yi Luoyu with this large sword, it was almost foreseeable that the outcome of the battle would be decided in a very short period of time. The loser would definitely be Mu Kanglan, but in the next moment, Mu Kanglan made a shocking move. Yi Luoyu leaped into the air and dodged Mu Kanglan's heavy sword attack. Although she retreated unscathed, there was an opening behind her. Mu Kanglan grabbed the large iron staff and charged into the battlefield. With one move, he swept away thousands of troops. In an instant, the experts on Yuan Tianji's side were all forced to flee in all directions. It was as if a storm of the end of the world had appeared in the sky. The original spirits born from the deaths on the battlefield were all swept away, leaving not a single one behind. For a moment, Mu Kanglan was truly majestic and unstoppable. And at this moment, a large colorful bird suddenly flew over from the distant sky. Everyone was focused on the battle, so no one noticed the arrival of this large bird. That large bird flew thousands of feet away and stopped. With a shake of its body, it transformed into a thin man. At this moment, he was staring dumbfounded at Mu Kanglan's ferocious appearance as he chased after the enemy with a large staff. His entire body twitched as he muttered, "Fuck. This is too fucking ferocious. Even more ferocious than Dong Wushang." The battle on the upper and lower battlefields continued. It continued until night time. Then, both sides withdrew their troops and returned to their camps. Groups of people came out and carried their own corpses back, minding their own business. Yuan Tianji flew into a rage. "I called you out for the purpose of chasing those people away, not for you to fight. All of you are so fucking excited. Is it fun?" The experts who went out to fight all had tears in their eyes as they cursed in their hearts. "Your Majesty, what the fuck are you saying? If we don't fight, how can we chase them away? And we're fighting in high spirits. So many of our people died. Who fucking said it was fun? Was it that fun? This is fucking playing with our lives, alright?" Chapter 2308. Danqiong had never been so impatient since he started leading the army. And the army. Xie Danqiong had always set an example. What was wrong with him today? The messenger was startled, but he didn't dare to ask. Instead, he used his qinggong and rushed to the kitchen. The chefs were almost scared to death by his sudden appearance. Not long after, the first dish was served. The two of them had already drunk 2 jars of wine each. "Tell me, what do you want to do by coming here for no reason?" Xie Danqiong squinted. At this moment, the steady and confident image of a noble had completely disappeared. He sat crookedly on the ground with his collar open. Rui Butong drank with dark eyes and said, "Why would I come here for no reason? I heard that your place is very fun recently, so I came to play with you." Xie Danqiong was touched. He knew that Rui Butong saw that he was in danger and hurried over to help. He was touched, but he said, "You bastard, you only know how to play. Is this fun?" Rui Butong smiled and tore off a chicken leg, putting it in his mouth and chewing. Xie Danqiong thought of something and suddenly laughed. Thief, you're nibbling on chicken feet. Aren't you nibbling on your own claws? Rui Butong was furious. Don't call me thief. After a pause, he shouted, you're talking nonsense, fart, fart. You're a phoenix. Not a chicken. Xie Danqiong smiled. But you're on the ground now. As the saying goes, a phoenix on the ground is not as good as a chicken. Hey, that means you're not as good as it. How can you compare to it? He pointed at the chicken head that had been torn into pieces. Rui Butong screamed, his hair standing on end. Xie Danqiong, do you want to fight? How am I not as good as a chicken? Xie Danqiong laughed. Haven't you had enough of being beaten? Let's fight. Come on. Rui Butong then remembered that he was no match for him. He said dejectedly, I knew you were up to no good. You want to fight? But I won't let you do it. I won't let you feel good. What can you do? Xie Danqiong laughed. He felt that ever since he came to the Heaven Imperial Court, there had never been a day as happy as today. Rui Butong cursed a few times in a low voice, but he also laughed. He was swaying left and right. But what they didn't know was that their conversation was coincidentally overheard by the messenger who came to deliver food. The messenger was shocked when he heard this. Oh my God, so the two of them have this kind of relationship. I really didn't expect. On the second day, Yu Lai sent people to challenge Mu Kanglan as usual. Mu Kanglan's side could only respond passively. However, the battle in the sky continued. Just as the two sides were in full swing, suddenly, Xie Danqiong let out a phoenix cry that soared to the sky. The sound of the phoenix cry reverberated in all directions. While both sides were dumbfounded, a colorful phoenix suddenly appeared in the sky above the battlefield. As it spread its wings, the sky was filled with raging flames, as if it could burn the heavens and earth. When this phoenix spread its wings, its entire body was over 1,000 feet wide. Just one of its eyeballs was larger than a person's body. Even though it was daytime, those two big eyes were like two huge light bulbs. It soared majestically through the sky. Everyone on both sides of the battle was stunned. Although the people of the Heaven Imperial Court were all knowledgeable, especially the experts, who had actually seen a phoenix. Phoenixes existed in ancient myths and legends, and seemed to have disappeared from the Heaven Imperial Court for at least millions of years. The phoenix was extremely majestic, flying slowly through the sky. After circling once, it actually stopped in the middle of the battlefield. It opened its big eyes and looked down majestically. Why is there a battle here? Our phoenix race has always adhered to the concept of peace. We save the world and protect the Heaven Imperial Court. You mortals actually dare to wantonly destroy the peace of the Heaven Imperial Court. What is the reason for this? Below, Xie Danqiong almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What the hell? What kind of show is this? We agreed before that you just have to put on a show to intimidate the enemy. Who asked you to put on a show? And his acting so big, so big. His acting like a fool now. Hey! However, the show had already reached this point. He couldn't possibly take the initiative to destroy it, right? He could only brace himself and continue acting according to the script. Xie Danqiong pinched his nose and shouted, Lord Phoenix, please allow me to report. It's not that we want to disturb the Heaven Imperial Court, but the enemy's leader is the reincarnation of the extraterrestrial demon who wants to destroy the Heaven Imperial Court. Our original intention of starting this war was to slaughter the demon and pacify the Heaven Imperial Court. We really have no choice. The phoenix in midair turned its head and said, Oh? Extraterrestrial demon? Then, its wings spilled out flames. It stretched its neck and sniffed a few times. Then, it said calmly, What you said makes some sense. I was wondering why there was such a strong demonic aura here. It turns out that the extraterrestrial demon is causing trouble here. No wonder, no wonder. Then, suddenly, a clear phoenix cry rose into the sky. It shouted, Extraterrestrial demon clown, why don't you hand over your life to me? Don't you dare disturb the Heaven Imperial Court again. It flapped its wings and flew in the direction of Yuan Tianjie's camp. Xie Danqiong was stunned in his own camp. Then, He beat his chest and stamped his feet. He was really in so much pain that he wanted to die. Big brother, the script didn't say this, okay? This show can't be played like this. This is too melodramatic. Who told you to slaughter the demon directly? Do you really think that you are invincible as a phoenix? Aren't you fucking harming people? You want to kill me? Xiedan Qiong's heart was filled with tears, but he still had to put on a longing expression. That big phoenix cried out and rushed into the camp in an instant with flames that could burn the world. With a roar, thousands of camps were set on fire at the same time. Raging flames soared into the sky. This was not an ordinary fire. It was the nirvana fire that Rui Bu Tong had deliberately scattered. This kind of fire was said to burn everything. It would burn if it touched it. It would burn if it touched it. Sigh, it could even burn you to death. The fire instantly soared into the sky. The little remaining soul power in the air was instantly burned up by this fire. At this time, Yuan Tianjie's primordial spirit had turned into a layer of faint black smoke, quietly hiding in the sky to secretly absorb the soul power. With such a sudden change, he was almost engulfed in the raging nirvana fire. He hurriedly turned into smoke and escaped, returning to his body. His face was already purple with anger. Although he was lucky to escape unscathed, some of his vitality was still damaged by the fire. The efforts of these days were all in vain. In these 2 days, although Mu Kanglan and the others had caused trouble, there were still some remnants of his primordial spirit that survived. It was not to the extent that he couldn't absorb any. Moreover, those that survived were all relatively strong primordial spirits. Using such primordial spirits to heal injuries would be more effective. But this inexplicable phoenix came out of nowhere and burned them all to ashes, leaving not a single drop behind. It even directly consumed the power of Yuan Tianjie's primordial spirit. How could Yuan Tianjie not go crazy with anger? Where the hell did this evil creature come from? It's really inexplicable. Yuan Tianjie no longer cared about the demeanor of a celestial emperor. He stomped his feet and cursed. Seeing that the phoenix was still wreaking havoc in the sky with raging flames, Yu Lai hurriedly ordered an attack. But that phoenix flew so high that normal attacks had no effect at all. Yu Lai had no choice but to order the experts to cross the sky and attack. Then, one by one, figures flew into the sky like meteors and attacked the 1,000-feet-tall phoenix. Evil creature, stop pretending to be mysterious. I did this for you to slay the demon. You don't know what's good for you and actually attacked me. Where is justice? Rui Butong said angrily. How far are you going to be deceived by the heavenly demon? Do you really not have brains? Or is there mold in your brains? Can't you see that the heavenly demon instigated you to fight in order to cause more damage and to absorb soul power to strengthen yourself? Evil creature, stop talking nonsense. Yi Luoyu rushed up like lightning. This phoenix's eyes were really sharp. It could even see this. They definitely couldn't let it continue. Of course, if the same words came from Mu Kanglan's mouth, the effect would be completely different. He could even bite back, saying that Mu Kanglan was slandering and distorting the truth. But coming from the mouth of this majestic and awe-inspiring phoenix, it was too effective. Golden dragons and phoenixes were super existences worshipped as divine beasts in this world. Although with Yi Luoyu and the others' tyrannical cultivation, they didn't care about divine beasts or not. But one had to know that in this world, people at the bottom were still the most numerous. Didn't they use the lowest level of public opinion to attack Mu Kanglan before? If the other party also used the same method and did the opposite, Yi Luoyu didn't dare to let this phoenix continue. She immediately attacked fiercely. Every move was a killer move with the intent to kill. Instantly, Rui Butong was battered and exhausted. His original intention of coming here was just to show off and help Xie Danqiong. Even if it was a one-on-one fight, his strength was still not a match for Yi Luoyu. In fact, the difference was huge. Not to mention that the other party had a lot of experts helping her. In just a few exchanges, this phoenix that was still incomparably majestic a moment ago seemed to have changed beyond recognition. After a while, feathers flew everywhere, and a shrill cry sounded. Everyone's jaws dropped to the ground. This phoenix's appearance was so flashy that they really thought it was an invincible divine beast. Who would have thought that with just a few moves, it would be beaten into this state? Even if the people besieging you were all top experts of Qian, even if the number of people was a little high, you should at least show some semblance of a divine beast, okay? Okay. Rui Butong was finally anxious. His eyes turned, and he roared, "You've bullied me too much. This is my first time in the world, and I don't want to kill easily. But this group of ignorant people is targeting me like this. I'm going to use my killer move. Burn heaven and earth, and Qian." Chapter 2309. The demonic phoenix was going to use its killer move. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. They subconsciously wanted to take a defensive stance to deal with the upcoming killing move. Naturally, their attacks slowed down involuntarily. The demonic phoenix was going to use its killer move. This was extraordinary. A phoenix that had not appeared for millions of years. Just the thought of it was terrifying enough. Would they be able to withstand it? They had no confidence. They should prepare to defend with all their might. If they died here, then it would be too unjust. As they thought about it, the phoenix let out a long cry. Its entire body suddenly emitted white flames. Whoosh! Yi Luoyu was the first to retreat more than 100 meters. Her expression remained unchanged, but her heart was pounding. Humans might not be important, but as a heavenly demon, he still had many misgivings about the legendary Phoenix clan's Nirvana flame. Otherwise, he would not have come up with so many plans to kill all the Divine Beast clan. In the raging flames, the Phoenix let out a long cry, "Ancestors. Today, I'm going to start a massacre." Its voice was full of melancholy. However, the feeling of being pretentious was even more intense. Everyone's heart beat even more inexplicably with fear. They all increased their vigilance once again, trying their best to increase their defensive power from the previous 100% to the limit of 120%. They also displayed all their secret defensive techniques, intending to resist the upcoming world-destroying attack. Then they saw a red light flash. The timid ones couldn't help but let out a scream or a cry of surprise. Everyone rubbed their eyes at the same time. What was going on? Was this the prelude to the world-ending attack? He saw that the phoenix had actually made a feint, and those two huge wings were gathered on its back. Like an arrow, it shot out at an extremely fast speed. With its butt facing backwards, it looked like it was about to disappear from his sight. This guy was bragging so much, scaring everyone into a daze. Then, he actually ran away, and it ran so fast. While everyone was dumbfounded, he had already disappeared without a trace like a wisp of smoke. What the fuck was going on? Everyone, including the heavens and the earth, all stared at it with their eyes wide open. Millions of people had the same feeling. Then, everyone only thought of one word: fuck. Fuck. Millions of people blurted out. This holy shit was truly world-shaking. Since ancient times, no one had ever been able to say these two words in such a majestic and mighty manner. Moreover, it was able to shake mountains and uproot high peaks, causing sand and stones to fly. It was probably the first time that someone had ever said these two words in such a majestic manner, but this time, it was unprecedented. There was still such a divine beast existing between heaven and earth. Those experts who had circulated their yuan qi and used all sorts of methods to defend themselves were all dumbfounded. They didn't know how to react. Two of them who had forcefully raised their yuan qi to the limit and used secret methods to save their lives, spat out a large mouthful of blood because of the sudden change in front of them. The lethality of this attack seemed to be really great. On the ground, Xiedan Qiong, who knew the inside story, covered his face in extreme pain. This is so embarrassing. This is so fucking embarrassing. Brother, I wanted you to intimidate others, not to embarrass yourself. Now, this was just great. Xiedan Qiong immediately raised his head with a straight face. There wasn't the slightest trace of panic. That's right. As long as I don't expose that Rui Bu Tong is that phoenix, then everything will be fine. While others don't know, I must keep this matter strictly confidential. That phoenix and I, cough cough. I don't know him at all. Who is that phoenix? I don't know him. I don't know. That's right. We don't have any relationship at all. Xie Dan Qiong solemnly looked around and said, cough cough, everyone heard it just now. Even Lord Phoenix said that Yuan Tianji is a demonic demon. He started the war to collect the Yuan spirits of our race's experts and strengthen himself. That's it. Everyone nodded like chickens pecking rice. Why do I feel that Xie Dan Qiong's words are lacking in confidence? Shouldn't he be full of confidence? Misconception. It must be a misconception. That Lord Phoenix just now should be a little phoenix that has just stepped into the world. His strength is naturally lacking. Slightly lacking. Thinking about it, Xie Dan Qiong still felt that something was wrong. He swallowed his saliva and added such an explanation. Yes, Xie Dan Qiong. A guy said seriously, it's definitely a little phoenix that hasn't reached adulthood yet. He was besieged by so many people. Can't he just run if he can't win? Just now when he spread his wings and flew high, I paid special attention to the phoenix's lower body. I saw that. That's right, that's a male phoenix, a male phoenix. It's indeed not fully developed yet. I really saw it. It's really not fully developed yet. The corner of Xie Dan Qiong's mouth finally couldn't help but twitch. Then, it twitched again. Then, his entire face twitched. He almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. He turned his head and glared fiercely at this officer. Fortunately, his eyes were fierce, so he didn't burst out laughing. This guy, what's wrong with you? Why do you have to pay attention to that part? And you can observe it in detail and comment on it. It's fine if you don't know about it. Why do you have to publicize it, bastard? And that damned Rui Bu Tong, he's a complete idiot. You said that you transformed into a phoenix and spread your wings. It's indeed very mighty. But who would have thought that when you were mighty and beautiful, your lower body would be exposed? I'm going crazy. Even if I'm not crazy, I'm going to vomit blood. Xie Dan Qiong returned to the big tent. He fiercely picked up the water sack and gulped down the water in it. Then, he wiped his mouth. Then, he unwillingly and ferociously blurted out some vulgar words. His handsome face was tangled to the extreme at this moment. The guard in front of the door looked down and stood there majestically. He didn't move, but his heart was filled with endless shock. Chief Xie didn't seem to have said a single vulgar word even when he was facing a desperate situation 2 days ago. He always had a graceful and elegant demeanor, but I don't know what happened these 2 days. He's very different from his usual self. Not only can he call himself I, even those words like fuck and fuck are easy to say. It's as if it's going to develop into a catchphrase. What's going on here? What's the special reason for Chief Xie to have such a huge change? Puzzling. Pondering. Deep in the night, Rui Bu Tong returned to Xie Dan Qiong's independent tent in dejection. He was caught and beaten on the spot by Xie Dan Qiong. Rui Bu Tong screamed miserably. He knew that he was in the wrong. He didn't even struggle, let alone fight back. He just took the beating silently. For a moment, the big tent was filled with sounds of violent beating. There was also a kind of extremely angry and tangled cursing that couldn't be suppressed. Stupid bird. Stupid bird, stupid bird. You're a fucking stupid bird. I knew you were stupid before, but I didn't expect you to be stupid to this extent. Why did I think of asking you to take action? I'm simply blind. Following you, stupid bird, I'm going to become stupid because of you. Tell me, do you think you're still useful? The eyebrows of the guards standing outside twitched. They kept quiet out of fear. Listening to this voice, feeling that power. Damn it. Without exception, all the guards broke out in cold sweat. If this kind of power hit me, I'm afraid I would have been turned into minced meat. The one inside doesn't look tall, and his figure is thin, but he can actually take it so well. Damn it, that guy can really take a beating. The next day, the battle continued. The two brothers, Rui Bu Tong and Xie Dan Qiong, personally came to the scene to supervise the battle. Rui Bu Tong was dressed in black. His face was cold and solemn. He didn't say a word, just like a real peak expert. He stood with his hands behind his back, watching coldly from the sidelines. He was really awe-inspiring, showing off the demeanor of an expert. No one would have thought that this seemingly high and mighty super expert was actually the mythical beast phoenix that was crazily fleeing with its butt facing the sky and its lower body naked yesterday. Just as the battle was getting intense, suddenly, a huge flying boat appeared in the sky. It flew straight towards this side. The people on both sides who didn't participate in the battle were all surprised. Which force is this? Are they helping us, or are they helping the other side? The flying boat was getting closer and closer. The destination gradually became clear. It was slowly flying towards the center of Yuan Tianjie's camp. It was already about to land. An officer under Yu Kai's command couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. Could it be that our reinforcements have arrived? Someone stepped forward and asked, "Who are you? Please state your identity quickly. Otherwise, you will be destroyed." On the flying boat, a steady voice said, "We are the reinforcements from the rear. We are here to support His Majesty the Sky Emperor in eliminating the rebels. Take out the relevant token." The token, someone shouted. He was obviously a meticulous person. If you say you are reinforcements, then you are reinforcements. What if the enemy is pretending to be you? The person on the flying boat said indifferently, "We naturally have proof of our identity, but it is inconvenient to present it now. We will present it immediately after we land." Seeing that the flying boat had already arrived above the camp and was preparing to land, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. The other party was obviously planning to land in the center of the camp. If it was the enemy, wouldn't they be surrounded on the spot and destroyed instantly? There didn't seem to be such a stupid enemy. Since it wasn't the enemy, then it should be one of them. Even Yuan Tianjie in the tent was a little suspicious. He had several question marks in his heart. Where did these reinforcements come from? On the battlefield, Yi Luoyu frowned and thought, could it be that the order was given to those super sects back then, and now they are here to help? Since Yuan Tianjie, Yi Luoyu, and Yu Kai didn't stop them, the relevant generals immediately ordered the troops in the center to retreat to make enough space for the flying boat to land. Just as they were busy preparing, the flying boat suddenly accelerated its speed of descent. Chapter 23:10. Everyone below exclaimed, "What's going on? Fuck. What's wrong with you? Motherfucker. Quickly adjust the speed of descent. Fuck. Everyone, run." The flying boat descended with the force of a thunderbolt. To be more precise, it smashed down. At the same time, 10 round holes suddenly appeared on the flying boat. Then, something that couldn't be seen clearly popped out from inside the boat. It flew in the sky with a whooshing sound, and its landing point was uncertain. Everyone below could see that it was a very strange chair after it flew for some distance. The front part was pointed, and the back part was forked. It was grotesquely shaped. There was a person sitting on each chair, and they were rushing forward like meteors as the chairs shot out. They had already covered a distance of 3,000 feet in the blink of an eye. They were rushing towards Xiedan Qiong's camp like moths to a flame. What's going on? What's going on? Everyone's mind went blank. Isn't this situation too strange? It doesn't make any sense. Then, the momentum of the chairs gradually weakened. The 10 people on them suddenly stood up at the same time. They kicked the chairs with their feet. Apparently, they were using all their strength to continue flying towards Xiedan Qiong's camp. These people had already covered a distance of 2,000 feet. So, they weren't far from the battlefield. These 10 people were obviously first-class experts. So, they had crossed the entire battlefield in the blink of an eye, and had landed in Xiedan Qiong's camp without anyone noticing. They had descended from the sky. The person in the lead was dressed in snow-white clothes. His face was gentle and elegant. He was tall and handsome. He looked very confident and at ease. Especially that kind of steady and heroic bearing, it was as if the entire world was already in his grasp. He was extremely confident, and it really made people admire him. Xiedan Qiong was shocked to see this unforeseen event. He was so shocked that he didn't know what to say. He stood there, and his whole body trembled. Hot tears almost gushed out of his eyes. That white-clothed man slowly walked out of the smoke and dust as he looked at the excited Xie Danqiong. He smiled gently. Xie Danqiong, I'm here. Xie Danqiong's voice was trembling. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Mo Tianji, is it really you? A look of excitement also flashed across Mo Tianji's face. But he forcibly suppressed this excitement. Then, he smiled and said, Brother, you're fighting tirelessly. So, how can I, Mo Tianji, not help you? He. Since it's my first time here, I don't have any good gifts to give you. I might as well give you a firework show. Enjoy it. As he spoke, he clapped his hands lightly. 50,000 zhong away, the airboat that was descending in the center of Yuan Tianjie's camp suddenly accelerated again. Boom. Without any hesitation, he smashed it onto the ground. The weight of this flying boat was more than 1,000,000 jin. Not to mention the fact that Mo Tianji had put other things in it. Smashing down like this, the sound it caused was enough to shake the mountains and the earth, causing the sky to collapse and the earth to crack. The soldiers of Yuan Tianjie's camp near the place where the airboat fell were all shaken by this unusually powerful shockwave. They were sent flying in all directions. Some of the people who were close to the airboat bled from their 7 apertures on the spot. Many of the people with weaker cultivations were directly shaken to death on the spot. Even Xie Danqiong had clearly felt a strong tremor under his feet. Moreover, this sudden change had caught him off guard. Many large stones that weighed hundreds of jin in the vicinity also jumped up. It could be seen that the shock this time was very violent. However, Xie Danqiong was somewhat puzzled. Could it be that Mo Tianji had racked his brains to do this just to smash a few people to death? That would be a huge waste of an expensive airboat. Such a waste wouldn't be very effective. Looking at Xie Danqiong's doubtful eyes, Mo Tianji smiled faintly. He raised his eyebrows. Then, he slowly used 2 fingers to cover his ears. Then, he softly laughed and said, The firework show is about to begin. Boom. Xie Danqiong's complexion changed. He roared, Everyone, cover your ears. Get on the ground. Xie Danqiong's voice hadn't faded away. The soldiers didn't seem to have reacted. Then, they heard a truly earth-shattering sound. Boom tilde tilde tilde. That airboat suddenly emitted a blazing white light. Then, it exploded. At this moment, the world also lost its color because of this explosion. The world changed color. The sky was filled with human bodies and countless severed limbs. Many of them were turned into ashes and shattered into pieces halfway through their flight. An unprecedentedly huge mushroom cloud rose into the sky. It rose in spirals and rolled up. It became bigger and bigger. Eventually, it engulfed the entire horizon. Xie Danqiong's cultivation was exquisite. But, he still felt a burst of violent tremors even though they were so far apart. His heart was beating rapidly, and his feet were off the ground. Then, he couldn't hear anything. Finally, he sat down on the ground without any dignity. The 2 main camps of the 2 armies, 10% of the tents had collapsed from the force of the tremors. Nearby, more than 30 mountains collapsed at the same time. Rubble pierced through the clouds. Countless crushed stones flew into the sky. Yuan Tianjie's camp, which stretched for thousands of miles, became devastated after this explosion. It was too horrible to look at. 1/3 of the enemy's camp was directly destroyed by this explosion. A total of 2 million people were blown to smithereens by this massive explosion. Those who were lucky enough to survive didn't exceed half of the total. And these were those who were further away. Such a huge explosion happened without any warning in a densely populated military camp. It would be strange if they were fine. After a while, the aftermath of the explosion gradually subsided. But this moment was so miserable that even Xie Danqiong couldn't bear to watch anymore. This explosion was really too ruthless. Yi Luoyu, who was in midair, was relatively close to the explosion. At this moment, she had already been sent flying to God knows where by the aftermath of the explosion. As for Heavenly Emperor Mo Yun, Yuan Tianjie, he was at the center of the explosion. Even with his profound strength, he really didn't know what would happen to him. Mu Kanglan was also lying on the ground because of this unprecedented explosion. His intuition was like thunder in his ears. He was also considered unlucky. He was at the forefront of the battle. He was at the front and was directly affected by the aftermath of the explosion. Caught off guard, he fell from the sky like hailstones and almost paralyzed half of his body. Fortunately, his strength was profound and he didn't really paralyze half of his body. However, it was inevitable that he would temporarily lose his hearing. Gritting his teeth and crawling up, he saw that everyone around him was shouting something with their mouths wide open. But his ears were buzzing and he couldn't hear anything. He couldn't help but shout, "What's going on? Who can tell me what's going on? What's going on?" But when he said it, he realized that even the words he said seemed to be. He actually couldn't hear a single word. Within thousands of miles, everyone was covering their ears and cursing loudly. However, everyone only felt that the world was silent and they couldn't hear anything. There was only some buzzing noise in their ears. Xiedan Qiong's situation was better. He had already barely recovered. He crawled up from the ground and asked with a twisted face, "I say, what's going on?" Mo Tianji's white robe fluttered and he smiled gently, "It's not a big deal. All flying boats have a self-destruct function. It's just that I slightly improved it." "How did you slightly improve it? Did you really just slightly improve it?" Xiedan Qiong gritted his teeth. "Actually, it can't even be considered as improving it. I just added 7 million kilograms of explosives. That's all. Yes, I also added some poison and poisonous smoke. It's not a big deal." Mo Tianji said casually, "This is my first gift to you. This firework show is pretty good, right? 7 million kilograms of explosives. Firework show?" Xiedan Qiong opened his mouth wide. He felt as if his heart had been crushed by these words. Xiedan Qiong suddenly felt powerless as he looked at Mo Tianji's casual and careless manner. What is a ruthless person? What is a poisonous person? Have you seen it? If anyone dares to say that I'm ruthless, I'll risk my life with them. You can't compare people with people. Compared to Mo Tianji, I'm just a pure and kind-hearted young man. The experts around Xiedan Qiong had recovered their sense of hearing. So, they naturally heard Mo Tianji's words. Their mouths were wide open as they foolishly looked at this elegant and handsome young man in front of them. They felt as if millions of alpacas were galloping in their hearts, and were trampling them back and forth. Fuck, the generals didn't have any other thoughts apart from these 3 words. They didn't have any other thoughts. What kind of monster was this young man who looked so handsome and elegant, who exuded gentleness and sincerity from head to toe? The aftermath of the explosion gradually disappeared. The world was still shaking, but it was no longer enough to cause any harm to the experts. Mo Tianji smiled. "What's wrong, Xiedan Qiong? I've given you such a big gift. Aren't you going to invite me in?" Xiedan Qiong woke up from his stupefied state like a dumb goose. He repeatedly said, "Oh, oh, oh." Then, he came back to his senses. He opened his eyes wide, and cursed loudly, "Motherfucker. Mo Tianji, you should have told me in advance that you were going to do this, right? Now, where the fuck do you want me to invite you in?" Xiedan Qiong's commander's tent wasn't lucky enough to survive the explosion. It had already turned into ruins. Mo Tianji chuckled. He had an apologetic look on his face as he said, "I didn't think of this. I'm sorry. Please forgive me." Chapter 23:11. Looking at Mo Tianji, it was clear that he was completely complacent and high-spirited. Xiedan Qiong became even angrier when he saw this. With Mo Tianji's intelligence, how could he not have thought of this? However, he still chose to do this. Presumably, his caution had come into play. He was afraid that Xiedan Qiong would leak the information. Moreover, you've only lost a few tents at best. You haven't suffered any casualties. Mo Tianji's robe fluttered in the wind. He confidently walked forward and casually said, "You've maintained your fighting strength quite well." Black lines appeared on Xiedan Qiong's face. "You made such an explosion. Aren't you afraid of offending the heavens?" Mo Tianji smiled gently and elegantly. So, I'm already prepared to do good deeds. Xie Danqiong was speechless. He turned his head and turned his face to one side. The most optimistic and conservative estimate of your explosion just now is that it would kill at least a few million people. How many good deeds do you have to do to make up for it? It's a waste of saliva to talk to this guy. Especially when I see his harmless face. It makes me want to ruthlessly kick his handsome face. However, I don't have the time to do that now. So, I hurriedly ordered them to set up camp. At this time, the landslide on the surrounding mountains was still ongoing. It was still rumbling and shaking the mountains and the earth. All the soldiers under Xie Danqiong's command looked at Mo Tianji with reverence as they set up camp. Everyone had the same thought in their hearts: don't offend this person. We won't be far from destruction if we offend him. I don't know how Chief Xie dares to talk to that person so presumptuously. Isn't he afraid? Sure enough, an expert's way of doing things is unfathomable. Motherfucker, everyone says that the extraterrestrial demons are so. Now, it seems that the extraterrestrial demons aren't even qualified to carry the shoes of this gentle and harmless duke. This person is too ruthless. He just came here, and millions of lives have become a rainbow to welcome him. It's better to have less contact with such a ruthless person. It's best to stay away from him. Fortunately, his Chief Xie's brother, who would dare to provoke such a person? At this moment, an angry voice mixed with infinite grievance and grief roared, "Fuck you. Mo Tianji. You bastard son of a bitch. You, bastard. You still dare to come. See if I don't beat you to death, you bastard. Just you wait." It was Rui Bu Tong who was cursing without a care in the world. Among the brothers, Rui Bu Tong was undoubtedly the most miserable one who was plotted against and hunted down. At best, the other brothers would die, but there would always be a way out. Only Rui Bu Tong was completely dead. No matter how he walked, there would always be a dead end in front of him. Because of Mo Tianji's accurate information, Rui Bu Tong had already been beaten into meat paste countless times. It would be strange if her eyes didn't turn red when she saw Mo Tianji at this moment. When enemies meet, their eyes turn red. Naturally, they clenched their fists and rushed forward without a care. When the surrounding soldiers saw this, it was an eye-opener. Oh my God, there really was someone who wasn't afraid of death. He actually dared to clamor in front of everyone. Wasn't this a little too daring? It seems like he's an acquaintance. Mo Tianji was smiling and talking to Xie Danqiong. But, he suddenly heard this loud curse. So, he raised his eyebrows and said, "Oh, so there's a stupid bird here. Guards, take this person down and beat him to death. It doesn't matter if he's beaten to death. Count it all on me." Hearing this, the experts that Mo Tianji had brought with him rushed forward without a word, and used all their strength to besiege this bird. Mo Tianji and Xie Danqiong chatted and laughed as they talked about the world. On the other hand, Rui Bu Tong had fallen into a perilous siege. It was really dangerous at every step. How could the people that Mo Tianji had brought to participate in the war be ordinary? Almost everyone had a high cultivation level that was not inferior to Rui Bu Tong's. Moreover, they besieged one person. Soon, Rui Bu Tong was pressed to the ground and beaten crazily. Of course, they wouldn't go so far as to beat him to death. However, they could still beat him half to death. This was exactly what they were doing. On the side, the generals were puzzled. Mo Tianji and Xie Danqiong were chatting and laughing. They actually didn't care about this matter at all. They just let Rui Bu Tong be beaten into a meat patty. This was too cruel. Could it be that this guy wasn't their brother? This was too strange. Even if they weren't brothers, this was a little too much, right? Let's not talk about the new ruthless person. Our Chief Xie wasn't the kind of person who would take someone's life. What was going on? Rui Bu Tong was pressed to the ground by several people. His mouth was almost pressed into the soil. He was still shouting loudly, "Mo Tianji, you fucking wait. When the boss comes, I swear I won't be human if I don't beat you into a flying chicken. If I don't chop you into pieces and cook you, I won't be called Rui Bu Tong. Fucking. You're still beating me? You. I'll remember you. I'll tell you. I'll remember you. Ah. Save me. The barracks were finally set up. Mu Kanglan had also rushed back from the front line. After such an explosion, both sides didn't have the mood to continue fighting. It seemed like both sides were temporarily not in the mood. Mu Kanglan looked at Mo Tianji as if he was looking at a monster. There was deep fear and apprehension in his eyes. This was a madman, Mu Kanglan thought to himself. Not long after, Rui Biu Tong was dragged in like a dead dog and thrown on a chair. The pitiful phoenix was beaten into a chicken this time. His originally skinny figure had actually become fatter, swollen. Hearing Mo Tianji talk about this, Xiedan Qiong's eyes widened. In the end, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. It wasn't just him. Even Mu Kanglan, a million-year-old senior and the commander of the entire Mo Yuntian army who had experienced countless big scenes, had the same reaction as Xiedan Qiong. Even Rui Biu Tong, who was beaten until he was dizzy, didn't curse at this time. His entire person was in a daze. The faces of the people Mo Tianji brought were all green. Their faces were filled with lingering fear. It was obvious that they were overly frightened. You're saying that you brought along 7 million jin of explosives and stuffed them into your own flying boat, and flew a long distance of 170,000 li to come here? Xiedan Qiong's complexion turned deathly pale as he said those words. He was on the verge of collapsing. The faces of the people Mo Tianji brought revealed a kind of "I've survived a disaster. I can't bear to look back." All the dangers along the way were enough to make one go crazy from fright. Mo Tianji nodded as if it was a matter of course. Yes, what's wrong? Isn't this a matter of course? Without my arrival, would there be such a beautiful fireworks show? I'm going crazy. Xiedan Qiong grabbed his hair. He gritted his teeth as he looked at Mo Tianji. How come I didn't see it? At the side, Mu Kanglan's hair stood up as he listened. Carrying 7 million catties of explosives, flying at high altitudes for a total of 170,000 li. Mu Kanglan didn't know about others, but he definitely wouldn't dare to ride such a flying boat. He wasn't fucking crazy. He was having a stroke, and it was a huge stroke. Even if they were very careful, as long as there was a slight collision between them, there would be no need to talk about exploding the heavens. Perhaps, Mo Tianji and the other 10 people would have already turned into incomparably brilliant fireworks in the sky before they could even reach this place. In such a place of explosion, even Rui Butong with his phoenix physique would definitely be turned into ashes. There was no luck. Cough. Mo Tianji coughed and casually waved his fan. Before we came, I did a divination for myself. The divination showed that this trip was daunting but not dangerous. Do you know what this means? In fact, the conclusion was that nothing was wrong. Therefore, we came here without a hitch. Everyone's head was dripping with sweat. Fuck your sister. You did a divination for such a big matter. Who do you think you are? What about you guys? Did you guys just let him do it? He's crazy. Are you guys crazy too? Are you playing with your lives? Xiedan Qiong's face darkened as he asked Mo Tianji. One of them smiled bitterly. How can we change Lord Tianji's decision? As for this trip, I really can't bear to look back on the past. My hair turned grey early. One of them had a face full of fear. It seemed like everyone's hair was hiding a few strands of grey hair. Wasn't that the case? Along the way, they just sat in the cracks between the explosives. Their bodies were like zombies. They didn't dare to move at all. A whole 7 days. A whole 7 days. They didn't even dare to blink. They were afraid that they would accidentally trigger the explosives and turn into beautiful fireworks. Experts of this level were so scared that they needed to pee. However, they didn't dare to go to the toilet. They held it in all the way. They didn't go crazy from holding it in. How could outsiders understand this feeling? Just having a few strands of grey hair was already a very, 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 very lucky thing. When they heard Xiedan Qiong's question, all of them had a bitter look on their faces. Motherfucker, this is the most dangerous trip of my life. Compared to this trip in the sky, all the life and death battles in Jianghu in the past were disdainful. What desperate situation. What powerful enemies. They couldn't even be compared to this. Finally, after coming here, I saw the result of the bitter journey. I also ruthlessly flattened a meat target. The depression in my heart was vented a lot. I felt much more comfortable and refreshed. Chapter 23:12. All the generals in the tent nodded in agreement. Other than these two words, there really wasn't any other words that could accurately describe the actions of this gentle and elegant Duke Gui. Really fucking strange, there was actually such a complete outlaw in this world. A general stood up abruptly and hurriedly walked out. Where are you going? Mu Kanglan was extremely displeased. Didn't you see that there was an esteemed guest here? How could you be so immature? You're really embarrassing me. That general turned around with a green face. General, please allow me to report, I'm going to the latrine. Although I was only listening just now, I also felt the urge to pee. It really scared me to death. I'm covered in sweat. Who would have thought that once these words came out, there would actually be many people who agreed. All the generals who usually boasted that they were extremely daring all stood up with bitter faces. I'm also going to the latrine, I also need to pee. This is really humiliating. Mu Kanglan stood up angrily. I'll go to the latrine and catch all of them back. They haven't even gone yet. What are you going to catch? It was very obvious that General Mu was also scared to the point of peeing. However, he was experienced and had his own countermeasures. And those countermeasures were quite reasonable, not to mention Xiedan Qiong's side. Let's turn around and talk about Yuan Tianjie's side. After the explosion, that kind of tragic scene was really too horrible to look at. Even the most cold-hearted person in the world would shed tears of sympathy if they saw this scene. The so-called end of the world was probably nothing more than this. It might not even be comparable to the desolation in front of them. The military camp that bore the brunt of the direct impact was swept clean, and an unusually vast lake was created. The lake water rippled and sparkled. However, there were countless strange things floating on the surface of the water. The entire lake was red, blood red. There was still a stretch of thousands of feet by the side of the lake that was filled with minced meat that couldn't be any smaller. As for the places further away, countless broken human heads were blown by the wind, spinning on the ground. There was complete silence. Under such a huge explosion, even their cries were forcefully suppressed. The surviving soldiers stared blankly at the scene in front of them. This barren land, this wasteland, this boundless lake. Is this the military camp that we were fighting and defending with our lives just a moment ago? All the remaining soldiers were in a daze, and they seemed like children that had lost their mothers. Their miserable state simply caused one to shed tears upon hearing it and feel sad upon seeing it. In the distance, a human figure flew back with a whoosh. His entire body was shrouded in thick black smoke. He shouted loudly like thunder, "Who did this? Who did it? Who the hell did it? I'm going to tear him to shreds." The person who came was actually Heavenly Emperor Ink Cloud, Yuan Tianjie. But at this moment, His Majesty the Heavenly Emperor did not have the slightest bit of his usual majesty and demeanor. His entire body was tattered, and his face was completely black. One of his shoulders had been blown off. Fortunately, it was already recovering quickly. But that sorry state was still obvious and could not be concealed. In that explosion just now, although Yuan Tianjie had an exceedingly high cultivation, he was still in the center position after all. He had to bear the most direct impact and was completely defenseless. If not for his fast reaction, he would have been completely annihilated in this explosion. If he was really killed by the explosion, Yuan Tianjie would probably really become a legend, an unparalleled legend. The first Heavenly Emperor to be killed by an explosion in the history of the world. and the first heavenly demon king to be killed by an explosion in the history of the world. That would truly be too sullen of a death. Facing Yuan Tianjie's question, no one was able to answer. The wind in the sky whistled, as if weeping and complaining. In the distance, the landslide was still ongoing, and the rumbling sounds were endless. Your Majesty. Yu Kai appeared in Yuan Tianjie's field of vision, covered in wounds. The moment she appeared, she started bawling. Your Majesty woo-woo. Too miserable. Our situation is really too miserable. This bunch of goddamn demons. Too miserable. Yuan Tianjie's eyes widened. He was already in a bad mood to begin with. Now that a wailing person suddenly popped out, his mood naturally became even worse. However, when he saw Yuchi's current pitiful state and how her entire body was practically shattered, he couldn't bring himself to scold her. He let out a long sigh and said, "Hurry up and organize the army." Yu Kai replied while sobbing, then immediately turned around and left. In the distance, Prime Minister Yi Luoyu also flew back in a sorry state. Before she could say anything, she started coughing. Every time she coughed, thick black smoke would come out of her mouth. With this explosion, the Prime Minister's situation was also extremely miserable. She was speechless facing Yuan Tianjie. They really did not expect that in such an intense battlefield, such a super ruthless person would appear out of thin air. He directly used the largest and most powerful flying ship in the Heaven Palace, piled with explosives, and flew over tens of thousands of miles, directly smashing it on the army's head. What kind of motherfucking bastard can come up with such an idea? Fuck your mother. Yi Luoyu cursed. This is simply inhumane and deranged. To be able to make an extraterrestrial demon curse him with words like inhumane and deranged, Mo Tianji was really proud. Yuan Tianjie did not say a word. The murderous aura around his body was almost fully formed. He swore to himself that if he caught the culprit behind today's calamity, if he let him die a quick death, then he would have let down the 8 generations of heavenly devil ancestor. In Xiedan Qiong's tent, everyone looked at Rui Biyu Tong in surprise. This guy who was almost beaten into a meat patty just now was definitely not an adjective. He was really like a meat patty. In just a moment, all the wounds on his body disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. Slowly, the bruises all over his body disappeared. His face also gradually returned to normal, and he became lively again. This guy's recovery speed was even faster than Mu Kanglan, a peak saint expert. What kind of monster was this? It was like a phoenix going through nirvana, rising from the ashes. This was probably nothing more than this, right? Everyone looked at Xiedan Qiong, then looked at Mo Tianji, then looked at Rui Biyu Tong. They all had the same feeling in their hearts. Chief Xie's brothers, all seemed to be monsters. Although their paths were all unusual, they were definitely monsters. There was no doubt about this. Done. Mo Tianji asked Rui Biyu Tong kindly. Rui Biyu Tong nodded desperately. Do you still want to take revenge on me? I can give you a chance. Mo Tianji asked gently, full of modesty. Chapter 23:13. He was really scared to death. Ever since he heard that Mo Tianji had traveled thousands of miles with millions of kilograms of explosives, Rui Biyu Tong only felt a cold wind blowing at the back of his head. He was so scared that his legs almost turned to jelly. As for the thought of dealing with Mo Tianji, it was like snow melting under the scorching sun. There was nothing left. That's a good boy. You know when to advance and when to retreat. Mo Tianji laughed loudly. He was in high spirits and full of confidence. This strategy of his was quite effective. Dealing with Yuan Tianji was one of the main reasons. On the other hand, it was also very effective. Of course, Jiyu Duxing and the others have also been hunted down by me. When they come, you can contact them. Mo Tianji suggested, I don't mind if they join forces to beat me up. I really don't mind. This is nothing to me. Rui Biyu Tong was just thinking about this idea. Hearing this, he couldn't help but widen his eyes. You said you. Mo Tianji smiled very warmly. When the time comes, I may join forces with them to deal with you. But I don't know, do you want to offend me? Or do you want to offend me? What do you think they will choose? Xie Dan Qiong laughed loudly. Faced with such a choice, the brothers probably wouldn't choose to help Rui Bu Tong. That's because the most frightening person among our brothers is this master of calculation and manipulation, Mo Tianji, before us. In terms of terror, even big brother Chu Yang was inferior to Mo Tianji. Sitting in the commander's tent, Mo Tianji was carefully listening to Xie Dan Qiong's explanation of the current situation and his own situation. During this period of time, Xie Dan Qiong's side was in a bleak situation, whether it was in terms of overall strength or public opinion. Mu Kanglan himself was almost cursed to the point of his ancestors. In fact, it wasn't just his ancestors. It was as if his ancestors were unlucky. If his ancestors knew, even if they knew that Mu Kanglan was innocent, they would still visit him in his dreams to teach him a lesson. Faced with this matter, Xie Dan Qiong was at his wits' end. He couldn't deal with it. At this moment, Mo Tianji had arrived. With the arrival of this cunning ancestor, this difficult problem was naturally handed over to him to deal with. It's only been 10 days, how did we end up in such a terrible state? Mo Tianji frowned. He had been traveling at high speed on the way here. It was difficult for him not to receive news from the flying boat. His current news was still from 10 days ago. 10 days ago, Xie Dan Qiong's side had been singing a triumphant song. Tens of millions of soldiers had raised their banners to attack the devils. How majestic was the army's appearance! However, it had been destroyed in a short span of 10 days. In fact, less than 30% of the army's strength had been left at its peak. The most important thing was that the morale of the soldiers was seriously lacking. The general's fighting spirit wasn't at its peak either. However, they had been forcibly destroyed by external forces. So, this army might collapse at any time once that momentum dissipated. He had never thought that Xie Dan Qiong would end up in such a difficult situation. Moreover, it had happened in such a short period of time. On your side, you raised the flag to exterminate the demons. You exterminated the heavenly demons and Evilders who infiltrated the heavenly imperial court. You clearly stood on the moral high ground. Now, you have been forced into such a miserable situation. It's really... Mo Tianji sighed deeply. It was difficult to conceal his disdain. Mu Kanglan's old face also turned the color of pig liver. These words were too much of a slap to the face. Well, leave this matter to me. Mo Tianji thought for a while. Then, he immediately said. His tone was full of confidence. What do you want to do? Xie Dan Qiong's eyes lit up. Haha, have you ever heard of the saying, when things reach an extreme, they will move in the opposite direction? Mo Tianji asked. After he finished speaking, he chuckled and went to rest. Mu Kanglan looked at Mo Tianji's departing figure with a belly full of suspicion. Now that we have reached this point, the war might collapse at any time. What other methods does he have to turn the situation around? If there is one person in this world who can turn the situation around, then it must be him. Xie Dan Qiong said confidently, don't worry. Mo Tianji can definitely do it. When it comes to playing mind games, even my big brother Chu Yang is not his opponent. He is a peerless sly person. Xie Dan Qiong didn't know whether to praise or criticize him. He had a look of relief on his face. Mu Kanglan's eyes were full of suspicion. After Mo Tianji looked through all the information, he immediately took action. The first step is to stir up public opinion. Continue to scold Mu Kanglan. Scold him as exaggeratedly and as viciously as possible. The more exaggerated and viciously scolded, the better. The Tianji Intelligence Department quickly spread this order. Mo Tianji's orders were the only way to go in the Tianji Intelligence Department. Any order would be carried out with 100% accuracy. There was absolutely no room for error. Therefore, in an instant, all the various departments of the Tianji Intelligence Department in Mo Yuntian received this news. After a while, a wave of condemnation towards Mu Kanglan spread out in an unprecedentedly grand manner. Mu Kanglan is a despicable and shameless person. He has no talent and no virtue. He has been in a high position for many years. Now, he is plotting a rebellion. He wants to be the emperor himself. Mu Kanglan once occupied hundreds of thousands of beautiful ladies for his own selfish desires. He is a beast among beasts. Mu Kanglan, in order to repair his ancestral grave, forcefully moved 8 million people. He occupied hundreds of thousands of acres of land. He caused countless families to become homeless and their wives to be separated. That year, in order to occupy a lady, Mu Kanglan forced the death of an entire family. His despicable actions are simply outrageous. In order to gain the favor of a handsome guy, Mu Kanglan did not hesitate to kill hundreds of people just to make the handsome guy smile. Mu Kanglan's 1,000 crimes are as follows. Mu Kanglan originally only had the title of a rebel. Now, in just a day's time, he had transformed into an evil, unpardonable, insane, and inhumane supervillain. When the masses who did not know the truth saw so many truths, they were naturally filled with righteous indignation and scolded him. It turned out that the person who wanted to steal the throne had so many despicable actions. Then, his previous actions were reasonable. Everyone must have scolded him. It would be wrong not to scold him. How could a despicable person like Mu Kanglan still have the face to live in this world? Anyway, in the hearts of the masses, he was already dead. A day later, Mu Kanglan received the latest news. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He immediately went to find Xie Danqiong. This is how he cleared my name. I really, after saying I really 7 or 8 times, his face turned red. Finally, he scolded, "Fuck." Xie Danqiong grimaced and held his forehead. This is a strategy. Let's wait and see. Mu Kanglan left the tent in anger. In the next few days, as he fought, he heard the curses outside escalate. Mu Kanglan wantonly killed his own people. Every year, tens of millions of Tianqiu people die in his hand. In fact, Mu Kanglan's previous battles were all for personal gain. Otherwise, with his character and actions, how could he obtain the position of number 1 in Mo Yuntian's military? Yes, how could he rebel without building up his prestige? At the beginning of the rebellion, how could he gather so many people? Mu Kanglan's intentions are extremely vicious. He has been plotting this for millions of years. His intentions are truly unforgivable. Heaven and earth will not tolerate it. Mu Kanglan previously dismissed all the subordinates who were not loyal to him. He pretended to be benevolent and righteous, saying that everyone has their own ambitions. But after they left, he started to kill them. His atrocities are truly the rage of the heavens and the people. Mu Kanglan, why aren't you dead yet? Hurry up and die. The entire world was cursing, and they were all cursing one person, Mu Kanglan. But, slowly, there were voices of opposition. This seems to be a bit too much. Mu Kanglan is guilty of rebelling. This is undeniable. But you don't have to say that about him, right? It's fine if he likes women, but he can't go so far as to like men, right? Can he really like both men and women? Yes, why did all the crimes suddenly become Mu Kanglan's fault? I don't have the right to comment on other things, but this one is definitely wrong. Mu Kanglan's ancestral grave is in the imperial capital. How come it's not hundreds of thousands of mu? I went to measure it before. At most, it's only about 100 mu. The Mu family is a large family with a history of at least 1 million years. Is this little bit of graveyard already considered quite small? How did it become hundreds of thousands of mu in your mouth? This is definitely wrong. Yes, this is too much. Yes, not only is Marshal Mu not interested in men, he has also never raped women. I believe everyone in the imperial capital can testify to this. We have nothing to say about you calling him a rebel. Even if you call him a hypocrite, there should be a limit. You can't just throw all the dirty water at Marshal Mu. Hundreds of thousands of women. Which man in this world can satisfy so many women? Even if he is a beast, he doesn't have that ability. His words are too unreliable. And this is even more ridiculous. A total of 1,000 crimes. Even if Mu Kanglan hires a think tank to help him think of ways to commit crimes, there shouldn't be 1,000 crimes, right? What kind of mentality does the person who spread these rumors have? Isn't this too perverted? Chapter 23:14. That's right. Also, it's even more unnecessary to chase them down after they've been dismissed. Wouldn't it save a lot of effort to deal with them in the barracks? At that time, they were surrounded by the Sky Emperor's army. It's impossible to chase after so many people without being noticed by the Sky Emperor's army. If those people were killed by the Sky Emperor's army, then it might be possible. Haha, I'm just saying it's possible, it's more likely. There are too many suspicious points. Too many of them are illogical, and inconsistent with the facts. Yes, then why smear Mu Kanglan's name like this? He's already been condemned by everyone. Is there a need to step on him a few more times? I'm afraid there's something strange about this. Yes. Then, what's so strange about it? These soldiers are really dead. If that's the case, then if it wasn't Mu Kanglan's doing, who is the most likely person to have killed them? You're spouting nonsense. Since it's not Mu Kanglan's side, it must have been His Majesty who ordered the execution. Silence. I'm just talking about a possibility. I'm not saying that it was His Majesty who did it. It's just that the possibility is higher. The world is so chaotic. Who should we trust? In just 5 days, Mo Yuntian's public opinion had changed from everyone cursing Mu Kanglan in unison to a cloud of fog. Many people began to feel lost, at a loss of what to do. There were also some who began to ponder and search for the so-called truth. What the hell is going on? If Mu Tianlan really wanted to rebel, he would have done it long ago after so many years. Why wait until now? He has always been at the pinnacle of power. Since the rebellion was not Mu Kanglan's original intention, then why did he do it? What was the reason for him to do it without hesitation? If it's not greed, then what is it? Those who were killed were Mo Yuntian's soldiers. Since they had already left Mu Kanglan, why were they still killed? His Majesty the Heavenly Emperor has promised to let bygones be bygones. Could it be that His Majesty the Celestial Emperor went back on his word? A monarch doesn't go so far as to joke, right? That's millions of people. What is this for? It's hard to understand. Also, the current situation of the battle is extremely strange. Sky Emperor clearly has an overwhelming advantage, but he is delaying the use of his superior forces to engage in a large-scale battle. Instead, he is letting his soldiers fight one battle after another. That is simply a strategy of suicide. I just heard, that when heavenly demons are injured, they need a large amount of soul power to recover quickly. What's the big deal about that? There have been similar rumors for a long time. I even heard that as long as one is a powerful martial artist, they would know about this ability of the heavenly demon. I was actually saying, didn't Mu Kanglan say, didn't he say, you're saying that His Majesty the Heavenly Emperor needs a large amount of soul energy? That is to say, I'm just guessing. It's just a possibility. That's possible. I've also heard that the Heavenly Demon Clan does have such a strange ability. If that's the case, doesn't that mean that His Majesty the Heavenly Emperor is really Heavenly Demon? How can this be said so casually? But there are so many things, and all of them point to, it doesn't make any sense. As the saying goes, when things reach an extreme, they will move in the opposite direction. Mo Tianji's method was extremely pure. It began to affect public opinion from the opposite direction. Moreover, the two armies that were fighting also began to be suspicious. Each had their own misgivings, and each held back. The number of casualties on both sides sharply decreased. However, Yuan Tianjie couldn't make much of a response to this change in situation. Because, after Mo Tianji's explosion, the little bit of energy that Yuan Tianjie had recovered with great difficulty was directly smashed to the freezing point. The damage to his soul was even more serious than that of the calligraphy and painting kings. Even if he ate a large amount of heavenly treasures, he could only recover his physical injuries and cultivation strength. He couldn't recover the damage to his soul. Therefore, Yuan Tianjie was also very helpless. If a large number of people didn't die, how could he quickly recover? Therefore, even though he knew that the direction of public opinion had changed, he could only brace himself and continue to walk down this path. He only hoped that more people would die. This way, his soul would have more energy, and he would be able to recover faster. Then, he would eliminate Mu Kang Lan in one fell swoop, and it would be much easier to deal with the situation on the continent. As the tide of public opinion rose again, it slowly began to give birth to other opinions. "Hey, do you know?" In a small voice. "What is it? Come closer, why are you so mysterious? What is it?" "I heard that in a battle over there was an unprecedentedly violent explosion. His Majesty the Heavenly Emperor flew out, and his entire body was filled with black energy." "Filled with black energy? How could that be?" "Ah, that's right, black energy. It is said that is the so-called black energy, demonic chi." "Hiss. How is that possible?" "His Majesty the Heavenly Emperor." "Quiet. Motherfucker, do you want to die? Even if you want to die, don't kill me. This is too unimaginable, it's really out of my expectations." "That's right. Could it be that what Marshal Mu said is actually true?" This, I will not comment. If one person knew, then 2 people knew. If 2 or 3 people knew, then 200 people knew. Slowly, the entire street of ink cloud sky was whispering to each other mysteriously. As a result, such voices continued to be heard. "Hiss tilde 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 motherfucker. It can't be, motherfucker, motherfucker, motherfucker." At the same time, some of Mu Kang Lan's past achievements and attitudes were widely spread by people with intentions. "Marshal Mu is actually a good person. That's right, I still remember that Marshal Mu once wrote a poem. It is called Thousands of Horses and Thousands of Soldiers Out of Ink Cloud Sky. The battlefield is filled with white bones guarding the loyal souls. I would rather die on the battlefield than let down the heavens and my heart. Sigh, Marshal Mu has protected Ink Cloud Sky for millions of years. He is really a good person who protects the country. Have you heard that Yuan Tianji is a heavenly demon? This matter has already been confirmed. The evidence is conclusive. Ashamed. To think that we were a bunch of idiots before. We lived under the tyranny of the heavenly demon for so many years and still did not know the truth. If not for Marshal Mu, we would really be kept in the dark until we die. That would be a complete tragedy. Is this news reliable? Motherfucker, what do you know? Come. I will explain it to you in detail. Once I finish, you will understand. Woo woo. So the truth is like this. We have let Marshal Mu down. I deserve to die. I also scolded him the day before yesterday. I really feel bad. I also deserve to die. We need to clear Marshal Mu's name. Heavenly demon, scram out of Ink Cloud Sky. What you said is wrong. We should kill all of these demon bastards. Motherfucker, that disappointing son of mine is still serving in Yuan Tianji's army camp. This old man will immediately write a letter to scold that little bastard for associating with the heavenly demon. He is simply a traitor. The atmosphere on the battlefield slowly became a little strange. After 7 or 8 days, Yu Kai suddenly discovered that when he gave orders, there were more and more doubtful gazes looking at him. Moreover, the soldiers also seemed to be somewhat listless. Their morale was unprecedentedly low. There were also some people who would run into a tent at the slightest provocation. Many people were whispering something inside. As soon as he went in, it would immediately become silent. When they fought, they were no longer shouting like before. Instead, they were listless. There were more and more chattering sounds. Although it was only around, Yu Kai had already heard it more than once. Heavenly demon, Your Majesty. I don't know. On the other hand, Mu Kang Lan's side was somewhat idle. The daily battle between the two sides seemed to be dealing with official matters. Originally, in a day of battle, both sides would have at least hundreds of thousands of casualties. But in the past few days, especially in the last 1 or 2 days, there were almost no casualties. It was as if the two armies had discussed it. On the battlefield, you fight you, I fight mine. Then, we will put on a show and deal with it. Swords came like the wind. Every move missed. Swords came like lightning. Swords cut through the wind. Fists came powerlessly. Palms came like cotton. Anyway, all the attacks did not have the most basic killing power. How could there be casualties? This is also called a fucking war. Yu Kai hurriedly gathered all the generals and scolded. Is this how you fucking fight? Such dereliction of duty, such treason. And so, what welcomed him was the questioning and doubtful gazes of the generals. One of the rash generals finally could not hold it in and asked loudly, Marshal Yu, we want an explanation. Is His Majesty Sky Emperor a heavenly demon or not? You must know the truth. You are close to His Majesty Sky Emperor. Hearing this, Yu Kai was so angry that his nose became crooked. What nonsense are you saying? You believe such a rebellious rumor? You even dare to ask? You are simply unreasonable. How is it nonsense? If it is not, why doesn't His Majesty Sky Emperor take out evidence to prove himself? So that we have no more doubts. That person was unconvinced and refuted loudly. Bastard! Do you want His Majesty Sky Emperor to strip naked for you to examine carefully? Yu Kai was so angry that his face was flushed red. He did not choose his words carefully. That hothead was obviously still unwilling to give up. Yu Lai pinched his brows and ordered, Men, drag this bastard away and give him 200 beatings. In a silent place, the rash youth was dragged away. Chapter 23:15. The generals remained silent. The atmosphere in the tent was as if it was frozen, making people uncomfortable. Looking at the silence of the generals, Yu Kai was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He had good intentions in reprimanding that hothead this time. If his words were heard by Luo Yu and the others, that hothead would die immediately. Even the people present would not be able to escape suspicion. He immediately said loudly, I will repeat it once more. His Majesty Sky Emperor is not a heavenly demon. Absolutely not. Whoever has such suspicions in the future will be beheaded in public. Suddenly, a voice full of ridicule came from the sky. This voice said, He's not a heavenly demon? Then you are. Ha ha ha. You big idiot. Heavenly demon lackey. Everyone's eyes suddenly darkened, as if the whole sky suddenly turned dark. When he looked up, he discovered that an extremely majestic golden dragon had appeared in the sky without him noticing. That golden dragon's body was thousands of feet long. It circled and danced in the air, its huge eyes staring at the camp in the rain. Suddenly, it shook its head and tail and let out a dragon roar that shook the world. Divine beast. Another divine beast appeared in the world. After the phoenix, there was actually a dragon this time. It was also that shocking. All the generals were stunned. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the golden dragon swayed and turned around. Suddenly, it roared, Yuan Tianming, your grandpa is here. Quickly wash your neck and wait for me to chop you heavenly demon cub. With a whoosh, it rose high into the sky and flew towards Xiedanqiong. Over there, the same phoenix roar suddenly sounded, and a huge phoenix rose up to meet the golden dragon. It laughed loudly, Wahahaha. The bottom is finally here. The golden dragon flew into a rage, spitting saliva in all directions. Bullshit. Just as everyone was dumbfounded, the dragon and phoenix suddenly began to fight in the sky. Both of them were extremely vicious, as if they were mortal enemies that could not be allowed to live under the same sky. For a moment, the roar of the dragon and the sound of the wind shook the world, and sand and stones flew for hundreds of miles. Thousands of feet-long divine beasts fighting each other, it was simply a magnificent spectacle. But, didn't they say that dragons and phoenixes were auspicious? Why were the dragon and phoenix fighting each other today, and fighting so fiercely? Everyone's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. At this moment, someone suddenly shouted, Place your bets, place your bets. Let's see who will win. I bet on AO. Everyone turned their heads to look and saw that a few more young men had appeared out of thin air. The person who was speaking looked like a hooligan and his entire body was filled with a rogue aura. Beside him, there was a fellow whose image was not much better than his. He crossed his arms and said with a look of disdain, Is there even a need to gamble? AO will definitely win. How can that damned bird be AO's match? A voice that sounded extremely majestic and mighty said, Two shameless people, fighting now. Do you want me to slash them both with my saber? A female voice said, "Why are you getting angry with them? Your opponents should be Mo Tianji and Jiu Duxing, right? Playing with them will only lower our status. Even if we take a step back, we will have to catch Xiedan Qiong and beat him up. Only then will we barely qualify, right?" As he spoke, another man and woman appeared. That woman was dressed in black, but her curves were exquisite and charming. Other than being a little cold, she was simply a rare beauty. And that man just stood in the air, but he gave people the feeling that he was the one who lifted the sky with one shoulder. So majestic. The next moment, a piercing sword light came, intentionally or unintentionally cutting a space crack in the air. A cold voice said, "Who wants to fight with me?" A man in black, like a lonely sword, appeared brazenly in the sky, as if he wanted to split the sky into two. The people below were all shocked. Experts. Each and every one of these youths was an expert. When did the Heaven Imperial Court have so many young saints? It was too shocking for such a group of people to stand together. All of them were so strong and yet so young. These people attacked each other verbally, but when their gazes met, they could see the passion in each other's eyes, as well as an inexplicable surprise that could almost make one's heart ache. When Xiedan Qiong saw these people coming together, he was wild with joy. Looking at the familiar figures that kept appearing in the sky, he almost had the urge to cry out loud, "Brothers, you are all finally here." The brothers attacked and belittled each other, but their eyes were all sparkling. An incomparably familiar feeling arose spontaneously. It was as if they had returned to the Heaven Imperial Court, those days when they were together. When they were happy, they sang and roared together. When the wind blew, they rode together in the martial world. Those years that had passed came back to their memories so vividly. The faint sound of wind and thunder came from the horizon. Suddenly, a flying boat appeared at the end of the sky. Then, another boat appeared, and another one. There were a total of nearly 20 flying boats, with the momentum of toppling mountains and overturning seas, whistling all the way. That momentum was really like a king descending to the world. In just a moment, a flying boat had already entered their sight. On the flying boat, there were two big golden words engraved on it. "Heavenly Soldier." The brothers looked at the flying boat with fiery eyes, and there was uncontrollable excitement on their faces. "Boss!" The flying boat flew across the sky, gradually approaching, and finally stopped in the sky above the camp, slowly circling. All the soldiers on Yuan Tianjie's side looked nervous, as if they were facing a great enemy. How could they not be shocked? If these nearly 20 flying boats were also filled with explosives like the crazy one last time, even if only half of them were hidden with gunpowder, when they really exploded, the destructive power would be at least 10 times more than the last time. Under that kind of terrifying power, not a single one of the tens of millions of people here would be left alive. Basically, no one would be lucky enough to survive. Even no one would be able to leave behind a complete corpse. This wouldn't be that crazy too, right? The two great sky demons, Yi Luoyu and Yuan Tianjie, stood outside the camp, looking at the flying boats circling in the sky. Their faces were full of solemnity. Now they could already be sure that these flying boats were definitely not owned by the local forces of Mo Yuntian. Moreover, they were definitely not reinforcements for their side. In other words, these flying boats were strong reinforcements for Xiedan Qiong and Mu Kanglan. Looking at the dragon and phoenix in the sky, looking at those unfamiliar but high-spirited young experts, Yuan Tianjie said in a heavy voice, "This Xiedan Qiong, what kind of background does he have? Where did he get so many outside friends? Moreover, all of them are young men with tyrannical strength. I don't understand." Yi Luoyu said, "Or they were sent by a force connected to Mu Kanglan." Yuan Tianjie snorted. "Absolutely impossible. Mu Kanglan is such a bag of old bones. How much weight does he have? How much background does he have? This emperor knows very well. He definitely does not have this kind of face. Also, how old are these people? Prime Minister, you are getting more and more lazy to use your brain recently." Yi Luoyu's face was embarrassed. Of course, that sentence just now was just for fun. With Yi Luoyu's brain, how could she not know that Mu Kanglan definitely could not have such friends? If he had such strong reinforcements, would he have been so miserably defeated before? If it were not for the fact that Yuan Tianjie needed a large number of souls to recover, he could have attacked with all his strength a few days ago and completely destroyed Mu Kanglan and Xie Danqiong's forces. He never thought that victory was in his hands and planned to play a cat-and-mouse game, using a large number of souls to recover while he was at it. He had actually given the other side a chance to catch their breath. What little fire there was left was actually going to be reignited. Originally, with Yuan Tianjie and Yi Luoyue's shrewdness, even if they knew that their judgment was wrong, they would not be sad and self-resentful. However, the arrival of these people really made them feel a huge pressure. These young people, any one of them is a terrifying existence. Even if they are not enough now, they will be in the future. Yuan Tianjie looked at the people opposite him and said in a low voice. Yi Luoyu did not speak. With their current cultivation at the peak of the Saint Realm, although the strength of these young fellows was not bad, it was still not enough. If they really fought with all their strength, they could kill one of them with one palm. However, the potential of these people was extremely terrifying. In the future, they would definitely become a serious problem. Both of them were great people with long lives and deep experience. They could be said to know everything in the world like the back of their hands. However, it was also because of this that they knew how terrifying these young people were. Thinking about how they were the best of the Heavenly Demon clan and had extremely high talent. Today, they had reached the peak of the world's cultivators. Even if they faced other monarchs, they might not have the word fear in their hearts. However, seeing these young people today, there was an inexplicable fear in their hearts. Thinking about what kind of cultivation they had when they were in their 20s. When they really thought about this question, Yuan Tianjie and Yi Luoyu both fell silent. The coldness in their hearts grew even stronger. After a long time, Yuan Tianjie finally asked, Luoyu, when you were their age, what were you doing? A bitter expression appeared on Yi Luoyue's face. Your Majesty, this is really hard to say, sigh. He raised his head and said in a reminiscing tone, at that time, I was only an advanced fledgling demon. I was already regarded as the new generation's genius by the whole clan. All the high-grade resources in the clan were all given to me. Moreover, I was also self-satisfied with my level, thinking that I was great. I really looked down on the world and had no regard for anything else. If it was the level of the Heaven Imperial Court, I would probably only be at the advanced Earth level. I'm ashamed, sigh. Chapter 23:16. Yi Luoyu nodded. The potential of these youths is really terrifying. Yuan Tianji's eyes were a little gloomy. He said slowly, I'm afraid that these people will really become a group of purple tycoons in the future. If they really become fully fledged, I'm afraid that our clan will be in danger. Yi Luoyu nodded in agreement. How can we allow such a genius to grow? We might as well destroy him right here and now. If we can destroy them all, it will be our clan's great fortune. On the other side, under the joint command of Xie Danqiong and Mu Kanglan, a large area was quickly cleared out for the flying boats to land. The flying boats circled and the first one finally landed. The dragon and phoenix in the sky stopped fighting and quickly landed. Then, they turned into two youths. Ji Mo, Luo Kedi, Jiyu Duxing and the others rushed over. Xie Danqiong's handsome face, which had always been calm, turned red. He was so excited that his limbs were trembling. There was nothing more exciting than suddenly receiving powerful reinforcements when you were in a hopeless situation where you could be defeated at any moment. Moreover, your best brothers had all come to share your trials and tribulations, breathe with you, and fight side by side with you. Mo Tianji leisurely walked out of the tent. His face looked as calm as ever, but his footsteps were getting faster and faster. There was a faint, uncontrollable anticipation in his eyes. The cabin door of the flying boat slowly opened. A figure flashed and a black figure appeared at the cabin door first. He had sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, a tall figure, and fluttering black hair. He stood tall and straight like a king. However, the excitement on his handsome face slightly destroyed his dignified aura. Mo Qingwu also appeared on Chu Yang's left in a flash of red. Zi Xieching also appeared on Chu Yang's right in a white robe. 3 people, 1 white, 1 black and 1 red. They flew down at the same time just like that. The man was handsome and elegant while the woman was pitilessly beautiful. It was this moment that was like flying immortals descending from the heavens. Many years later, the soldiers present would still remember this stunning moment in their mind. When I saw the minister and his 2 wives flying down from the airship, I almost suffocated to death. I'll wager it was the most beautiful sight I ever saw in my life. So said one of the generals who was present at the time, many years later. Boss. Big brother. Boss. Ching Wu. Second brother. Ow woo, dog aunt. Wahahaha. I'm a dog aunt today. The chaotic and unintelligible noises made the onlookers shocked at first, then felt that it was funny. Then, they felt that their eyes were wet. It was an indescribable feeling. It was very real and there was nothing fake about it. Luo Kedi and Ji Mo flew up, Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong flew over, Mo Tianji and Xiedanqiong stood side by side, their lips trembling as they looked ahead. Dong Wushang rudely opened up a path, bringing Mo Lei with him as he dashed forward. But the fastest one was Jiyu Duxing, who had a sword in his hand. With a flash of sword light, Jiyu Duxing, who was one with his sword, appeared in front of Chu Yang. Their eyes met and they paused for a moment. Then, the 2 of them hugged each other tightly. Then, Dong Wushang pounced over. In the next moment, Luo Kedi and the rest screamed as they threw themselves into the air and then fell down hard. In an instant, the 7 brothers had piled up into a human mountain on the ground. Mo Tianji's eyes flashed and he said with a trembling voice, "Go quickly." Xiedanqiong shouted with a trembling voice. He flew up and landed on the top of the human mountain. Mo Tianji laughed and was the last to jump up. But he was carrying a huge rock that weighed a few thousand pounds in his arms and he threw himself up with it. "Fuck, you want to kill me? Mo Tianji, you little bastard, I really don't know how your brain grew. Fuck, you're crushing me to death, crushing me to death. Ayo, you bastard, why aren't you up yet?" Suddenly, there was a tsunami of curses. Coupled with the sound of laughter, at this moment, this place was a sea of joy. The brothers messed around for a while. Although they had not seen each other for only 2 years, everyone felt as if they had been separated for 3 lifetimes. They were so excited that they felt as if they were going to explode. While they were hugging and joking around, the brothers used a very covert method to quietly wipe their eyes, and then continued to laugh and joke around. In the end, Ji Mo really couldn't control his emotions that were about to explode. He took the lead and punched Luo Ku Di in the face. Luo Ku Di shouted and stood up, wanting to fight back. He grabbed Ji Mo, the initiator, and the 2 of them began to fight. Seeing this scene, he really didn't know whether these 2 fellows were happy, excited, or just excited. Chu Yang crawled up with his face covered in dirt and shouted, "Brothers." His voice was a little pretentious and boorish, just like a bandit who had never seen the world. The brothers shouted, "Boss, we're here." Chu Yang shouted, "That bastard. He dares to bully us. What should we do?" "Grab your weapons." Dong Wushang shouted, "Go and chop him up. Let's go." Chu Yang waved his hand in high spirits. "Everyone grab your weapons and follow boss to chop him up. Awu ~~ chop him up. Damn it, he's too arrogant. He actually dares to bully my brother. See if I don't beat his dog aunt to death. Chop him up. Kill him. Kill him. Kill him. Ho ho. I'm going to rape him to death." Rui Butong, who was the last to speak, immediately caused a roar of laughter. Instantly, it was like a market. Phoenix is still the best. Waha. She actually raped Yuan Tianming to death. She's too confident. Do you have that ability? Ao Xieyun laughed until tears and snot came out. Waha, Rui Butong, go. Let us brothers broaden our horizons and broaden our horizons. The brothers clustered around Rui Butong and egged him on. Rui Butong yelled, "There are women here too. We must take revenge openly. That taste is too strong. Damn it, you bunch of hooligans." At the side, Mu Kanglan was dumbstruck, flabbergasted, and speechless. This was the group of brothers that Xie Kuei had mentioned. At first glance, they did look like 5 people, but why did they talk like a bunch of gangsters? This contrast was too big. You really couldn't judge a book by its cover, but how could he know that no matter which one of these people was, they would definitely be the most powerful bandit in this world? There were absolutely no fakes, and the goods were genuine at a fair price. It was a fair trade. Just as he was surprised, he suddenly heard a voice call out, "Marshal Mu." Mu Kanglan turned around and couldn't help but be overjoyed. "Wuya, it's you?" The person who came was Meng Wuya. Suddenly meeting an old brother that they thought they would never meet again in this life on the battlefield, Mu Kanglan and Meng Wuya were both indescribably excited. Thinking about what happened to each other not long ago, they couldn't help but sigh. The initial excitement didn't die down. Chu Yang and the other brothers fooled around for a long time, until a very rough voice rang out. "Ji Mo, you bastard. Get out here for me." As soon as these words came out, all the brothers felt as if they were struck by lightning, and immediately became silent. Even a certain bird who claimed to want to kill Yuan Tianjie was no exception. Each and every one of them hid to the side with their tails between their legs, afraid that this tigress would see them and implicate them in this unexpected disaster. Apart from Miss Huyen Aobo, who else could have such power and influence? It was really a shout, and the tribulation retreated. Ji Mo's face spasmed and his neck twisted. His face revealed a rather exaggerated and artificial surprise. He was so stiff that he almost thought that he was dreaming. A tall and slender woman with a round waist and a dignified aura walked over. She grabbed Ji Mo's ear and sneered, "I haven't been by your side for the past 2 years. I heard that you've been quite dissolute. It's said that you've even found 8 or 10 concubines. You're very satisfied, huh?" Her mouth was spouting nonsense, and her eyes were already filled with tears. Heavens, earth, these are all rumors. Who is spreading rumors about me? I didn't. How would I dare? Ji Mo cried out. My love for you can only be shown by the heavens. Even if the seas dry up and the rocks crumble, even if the sky falls and the earth shatters, even if my soul scatters, I still won't change. Wrong. I actually wanted to say. What did I want to say? Huyen Aobo almost laughed, but she still grabbed Ji Mo's ear. Don't be so anxious. Come with me. Talk slowly. There is time. I will interrogate you properly. You didn't say that you didn't dare. If you dare. Under the dumbfounded gazes of everyone present, she grabbed Ji Mo's ear and left. Mu Kanglan, Meng Wu Ya, and the others who had never seen it before had their eyebrows twitching wildly. Their eyeballs almost flew out of their sockets. If it wasn't for the fact that they had their eye sockets covering their eyes. Ji Mo, this name is really good. Moreover, the wife he found is even better. When these two walk together, it is simply like a cute and lovable bird. It is quite standard. Little brother. A voice called. When Jiu Du Xing heard this, it was as if he had been struck by lightning. He turned his head abruptly and looked at the thin and graceful beauty standing not far from him. He opened his eyes wide and said in disbelief, Sister Xiao Miao? It was Jiu Miao Ling. Jiu Miao Ling stood alone in the wind. Her voice had a tinge of shyness. Jiu Du Xing roared like a tiger and rushed over. He held her in his arms and said in a low voice, Sister Xiao Miao. Sister Xiao Miao. Sister Xiao Miao. Chapter 23:17. A satisfied look appeared on Jiu Miaoling's face, as well as a girl's unique bashful blush. She said in a low voice, Quickly put me down, you little fool. There are still so many people watching. Jiu Duxing let go of her in a daze and nodded repeatedly. Yes. Yes. Sister Xiao Miao is thin-skinned. I'll hug you when there's no one around. Jiu Miao Ling immediately covered her face. She was really so embarrassed that she wanted to crawl into a hole. This muddle-headed guy who only knows about swords and doesn't know anything else, what is he talking about? Beside them, a series of gloating laughter rang out because of this sentence. Of course, it was Luo Kedi and the others who would watch as long as there was a hot draw. Under Jiu Duxing's murderous gaze, Luo Kedi continued to laugh as usual, as if he would rather die than laugh to his heart's content. It was a rare opportunity to mock Gu Duxing. If Luo Kedi let it go so easily, he would feel sorry for himself. He would feel even more sorry for all the beatings he had suffered all these years. Today, he must laugh to his heart's content. At this time, Madame Mai had already met up with Xie Danqiong, and Ao Xieyun's wife and concubines were also with him. Everyone had reunited after a long separation. There were simply endless things to talk about and endless topics to talk about. Mo Qingwu was also chatting with her brother Mo Tianji, whom she hadn't seen for a long time. It was just that after the initial excitement, Mo Tianji's expression was a little anxious. His eyes were also a little wandering, as if he was looking for something that he had been looking forward to for a long time, but he just couldn't find it. Seeing this, Mo Qingwu pouted and stomped her feet repeatedly. "Second brother, what's wrong with you today? Are you so happy that you've gone silly? Your own sister is right beside you talking to you, but you're distracted. You really can't let me down." Mo Tianji said hurriedly, Yes, this matter really needs to be carefully considered." These words simply did not match the horse's mouth, and even deserved a beating to the extreme. If they really wanted to talk about it according to the conversation, wasn't it extremely annoying? Mo Qingwu looked at her second brother angrily. She simply turned her head and ignored him, returning to Chu Yang's side angrily. "Second brother is really too annoying. I've been thinking about him all these years, but I didn't expect him to not think about me at all. I'm so sad." Xie Danqiong's people had already welcomed the people from the flying boat at this time. They had set up a separate camp, and were eagerly receiving the incoming reinforcements. The entire camp was filled with the sound of laughter and the cheerfulness of the space. Even though they were on the battlefield, everyone could clearly feel the excitement in their hearts. This was especially so for the Dream Slayer army. Many of their brothers felt as if they were reunited after a long time. They hugged each other and refused to let go. Right at this moment, Mo Qingwu, who was by Chu Yang's side, suddenly realized that Mo Tianji seemed to have become more energetic all of a sudden. He couldn't help but be startled, secretly following his gaze. At this time, Mo Tianji only had eyes for one person. Obviously, he didn't expect that someone would deliberately observe him. He actually tidied his clothes, stroked his hair, coughed to clear his throat, and checked himself from head to toe. After confirming that there were no problems, he suddenly straightened his back and put on a pretentious pose with a very calm and magnanimous expression. Then, he strode forward. He laughed heartily and said, "Ha ha ha. Miss Le, I knew you would come. It's really been a long time. Miss Le is even more elegant than before. Congratulations." Across from him, there was a pretty girl in white. She was walking down from the flying boat. Her thin and delicate body seemed to be blown away by the wind. Mo Qingwu was so shocked that her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. So that's it. She understood her second brother's thoughts too well. Her second brother's expression had always remained unchanged even if a mountain collapsed in front of him. Even when facing emperors, heavenly emperors, and saint monarchs, Mo Tianji wouldn't pay so much attention to his appearance and even deliberately check himself. But today, he actually showed such a perverted look in front of Chu Le, this silly girl who always goes against me. This was simply intolerable. Even if the uncle could tolerate it, the aunt could not tolerate it. Second brother has betrayed me. Mo Qingwu stomped her feet lightly, looking extremely upset. Don't you know that this little girl often makes things difficult for your sister? Quarrels with me often? Don't you know that she's dead set against me and Chu Yang? She attacks me every day and fights me whenever she has nothing to do. Mo Tianji, you're my brother. You actually betrayed me without a firm stand. What's so good about this little girl? Sensing Mo Qingwu's abnormality, Chu Yang lowered his head in surprise. What's wrong? What's wrong? Mo Qingwu said angrily. Look at that Mo Tianji, he's making me so angry. He's really a jerk. Chu Yang looked over and saw Mo Tianji and Chu Le talking politely. He didn't find anything unusual. He wondered, nothing. What are you angry about? Isn't this normal? Mo Qingwu heaved a long sigh of helplessness from the bottom of her heart. She felt even more listless. She leaned into Chu Yang's arms and didn't want to say anything more. At this moment, She suddenly understood how Chu Luer felt about her previously. This silly girl actually wants to be my sister-in-law. Is this the jealousy of someone who snatches the person her brother cares about? At the outermost periphery, Great Demon King Tan Tan, who finally appeared in a high profile, was fighting with Rui Butong and Luo Kedi. Of course, it wasn't the kind of fight where they were high up in the air. Instead, it was a vicious brawl on the ground where they were like hooligans. You hugged me, I hugged you. You punched me here and I kicked you there. They fought until their noses were bruised and their faces were swollen, but they were in high spirits. He was beaten until his nose was bleeding, and he was beaten until his heart was broken, yet he was still laughing heartily. He was actually enjoying himself. Tell me, how could this be justified? This made the few excited women sigh in their hearts. The friendship between men is really hard to understand. What is this? If you want to fight, then fight. Can't you fight where there's more meat? You just like to look up. It's as if it's not over until everyone turns into a panda. Can't you just sit down and have a good chat after meeting after a long separation? Reminisce about the feelings of parting? Must you beat them up first, and beat them until their noses are bruised and their faces are swollen to vent your excitement? Otherwise, it's not over. Men are really a strange kind of animals. After a period of bustling, everything finally returned to order. Everything was arranged in an orderly manner. Xie Danqiong's family was reunited. Jimo and his wife were reunited. Tan Tan came with his family. Ao Xieyun was surrounded by his wife and concubines. Xie Danqiong had specially arranged several individual tents for these people. So, these lovebirds that had been separated for a long time could go inside and chat. Then, he led the rest of the people into the big tent while chatting and laughing. Xie Danfeng walked in with a pout. Her expression was actually similar to Mo Qingwu's, undisguised unhappiness on her face. Because Xie Danqiong didn't say much before he slipped away with his wife amidst the criticism of valuing women over friends. This made Xie Danfeng, who was inexplicably excited when she saw her brother, feel like a bucket of cold water was poured over her head. On Tan Tan's side, he was still shouting and fighting with Luo Kedi. She couldn't even find a shoulder to lean on. It would be strange if he was happy. In the end, Tan Tan, Rui Butong and Luo Kedi all came in with bruises and swollen faces. They sat at the end of the table with panda eyes. Mu Kanglan accompanied the guests at the side. In any case, he treated them to a meal first. Since they were guests, this welcome banquet couldn't be skipped. After this meal, Mu Kanglan actually felt a lot more at ease. This bunch of people looked crazy just now and didn't have any proper manners. But now, they looked much more pleasing to the eye. Every one of them was refined and courteous, showing the demeanor of a big family. Whether it was in terms of conversation or knowledge, every one of them was extraordinary. This situation made Mu Kanglan's heart calm down. What he was most afraid of was that if they were all as crazy as that Mo Tianji, this Mo Yuntian might really disappear from this world. In fact, this was also reasonable. After all of these people were genuine younger brothers of aristocratic families apart from Tan Tan. And, the basic conduct of a younger brother of an aristocratic family had long been imprinted in their bones. So, it was only natural that they would behave appropriately on appropriate occasions. As for Tan Tan, this guy's kingly demeanor had long been integrated into his body and mind. His every movement was like that of a king. Even though this guy looked ugly, his kingly demeanor was genuine. Even compared to Zhu Tai Butian, Yuan Tianji and even Xue Leihan, it wasn't inferior at all. And Mu Kanglan was extremely sensitive to this demeanor. Naturally, he didn't have the slightest intention of underestimating him. But Mu Kanglan also felt something else. Even though everyone was drinking in full swing, the way they looked at him was more or less, "You old man, why aren't you leaving yet? Why are you still so insensible?" It was a kind of meaning similar to this. Mu Kanglan could definitely understand this feeling, because he really wanted to leave now. As the saying goes, people have the same thoughts, and their hearts share the same reasoning. Right now, he also wanted to find a quiet place to have a good chat with Meng Wu Ya, and drink some wine in peace. This kind of feeling was actually shared by everyone. But this old man had to stabilize today's situation first. First, 1 round. This is the most basic etiquette. After 3 rounds of drinking, Mu Kanglan stood up. Everyone, since we've met again after a long time, there must be a lot to talk about. This old man is old, so I'll go back to rest first. Everyone, please forgive me. Wuya, come with me. I have something to ask you. Meng Wuya also stood up as if he had been pardoned. Okay. The two of them walked out. Just as they walked out of the tent, they heard a boom sound coming from inside. A loud and clear voice shouted, "Waha! Come, let's drink. Luo Kudi, you're not a man if you don't drink until you're buried under the table." Then, he howled like a wolf. "Okay, as long as you drink as much as I drink, there's absolutely no problem. Do you dare? Do you think I'm afraid of a bastard like you? Come, come, come. I'll go first. You drink after me. If I don't drink until you're on your knees today, I'll use my legs to walk from now on." You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.